Welcome back. We'll continue our meeting in public to discuss committee business. Last time we adjourned the debate on the motion of Mr. McLean and on the amendment moved by Mr. Kimmich on February the 5th. Is there a consensus of the committee to resume the motion? Okay, I see yes. So first, I'm just taking a consensus. I'm going to make my decision then. If there's a consensus in the committee, and we will resume the debate on the motion that was adjourned. And Mr. Kimmich, go ahead, please.
So just very briefly, where we left off, just to make it clear that this is an IRCC issue. So I have the Hong Kong Watch report. There is $1.5 billion that's managed by Canadian insurance companies, which is equivalent to $69 million in management fees that these companies are making. So the issue, again, is related to those Hong Kongers who are Canadian citizens and who are Canadian permanent residents who came to Canada on the BNO passport when they entered Canada, which was a valid document to travel here. The MPFA, so this is a Hong Kong-based organization, the MPFA released a statement on March 10th, 2021, saying that because the British National Overseas BNO passport was no longer recognized by the Hong Kong government as a valid travel document, as well as a proof of identity as of the end of January 2021, those trying to withdraw their MPFs, which is the pension fund monies of these Hong Kongers who are Canadian citizens, Canadian permanent residents, before retirement cannot rely on the BNO passport as evidence in support of an application for early MPF withdrawal. These are pension funds of Canadians who are originally from Hong Kong or they're permanent residents of Canada. So when they apply, these Canadian insurance companies, their agents in Hong Kong, are not allowing the transfer. Some employees, at least in one case, I think it was Sun Life, has been arrested in Hong Kong for trying to facilitate this. But this is a form of transnational repression where the Beijing government is directing the Hong Kong government to go after these Canadian Hong Kongers and permanent residents. It's a form of this extraterritorial reach of the CCP against our people. So what I want here is for us to pass this motions with the amendments in order for us to call these insurance companies to testify and explain themselves on why they are doing this, why they are facilitating this, and why do they continue operating in Hong Kong under these conditions. Second part is the IRCC issues the PR card. So for those who aren't Canadian citizens yet, there's a PR card that's issued. The first 3-digit letters indicates which travel document you used when you originally came and entered Canada. For those Hong Kongers who use the BNO Overseas National Passport, it's showing it on the card. So it's a very easy, quick way to identify them by MPF managers in Hong Kong and by Hong Kong government administrators. So we're essentially, because of this quirk of how we do our PR cards, we're facilitating the identification of people to be targeted by Beijing. So I'd like this motion to pass for just one meeting, just so we can call these people to testify and explain themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmich. Any more speakers? Madam Kwan.
Just for clarity, in terms of the amendment, could we be sure that the amendment is to also invite the Minister of Finance to the committee, a representative from the Minister of Finance to the committee? I just want to be clear on what the amendments are, because I moved those amendments. So.
I will ask the clerk to read that motion as amended. Madam Kwan, that is, if you are talking about your sub-amendment, then we will debate on the motion as sub-amended. So go ahead, Madam Kwan.
Yes, because I think the proper procedure would be to vote on the sub-amendments and then the amendments and then the amended motion, etc. Right? So I just want to make sure that we don't skip that step, because I do actually think that the Minister of Finance has a role to play.
So as the committee members are aware, at the end of the meeting on February the 5th, Madam Kwan said that she would like to propose a sub-amendment, but we never had a time to discuss this with the adjournment of the meeting. A sub-amendment must be directly modify the amendment which was not the case. We should vote on the amendment and then she can propose another amendment unless of a unanimous consent of the committee. So do we have the unanimous consent of the committee? We do. Thank you. And so we are on to the sub-amendment motion by Mr. McLean, amended by Mr. Kimmich, and sub-amended by Madam Kwan. Any more discussions on that before we take a vote? No? Madam Jahi?
Thank you, Chair. So, it's the sub-amendment we will be dealing with first?
Yes, certainly, because there is a unanimous consent of the committee. So the motion now is presented by Mr. McLean, amended by Mr. Kimmich, and sub-amended by Madam Kwan.
Can the clerk read that complete as amended,
Sure.
please, first, before it is
sub-amended.
Yeah, and then, yeah.
Thank you.
So
One
please,
person-
if it can be read out,
Sure.
so that everyone knows what we...
We'll do that. Okay, Mr. Clerk, are you fully aware?
Yep,
Or you want second to be suspended?
that's okay.
Okay, so we'll go to...
But you would like to see
Mr.
the
Bourgeois.
entire motion,
Yeah,
including this amendment
Yes.
and the amendment. And Ms. Kwan?
Okay, just a point on.
Point of order. Point of order. Mr. Brunet-Duceppe, yeah. It's important to understand that there are Francophones listening to us, that there are Francophone employees working for the Bloc listening as well. So if there are discussions in English between the members here and the microphones aren't on, then the interpreters can't translate and interpret everything, so just be aware of that, please.
By Mr. Brunet-Duceppe, as I always stress on this, that there should be no cross conversations. There should be only one person that must be speaking. So please respect that, and I'll give the floor to Madam Kaibaga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to understand that we just passed a sub-amendment, which then goes into, we're now on the amendment that he made, our colleague made, as sub-amended, and then it's going to be up for discussion and then up for vote, correct?
So now we are on the debate on the motion as sub-amended. So, and then we'll have a vote. If we,
Amendment as sub-amended.
Yes.
Not on the motion.
No,
It's on
yeah,
the amend.
Yes.
So, because our colleague moved an amendment, and then
right.
she sub-amended
Sub-amended,
our other
yeah,
colleague.
that's
and
right.
So we're now debating the amendment, not the motion yet.
Exactly
Okay,
true.
cool.
And now, please, now I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Clerk. So let him speak. Thank you, Mr.
I would
Clerk.
like to mention to Ms. Kwan, because it was at the end of the meeting, let me know if, I think you mentioned to change representative to minister and officials at both places in the motion. So the new text would be as follow, that including the amendments. I will read with the amendment. So that pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee undertake a study of pension, transferability, and access to mandatory provident fund for Hong Kongers now residing in Canada. That the committee allocate one meeting to pursue this study. That the committee invite minister and officials of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, ministers and officials of Global Affairs Canada and Finance Canada, Manulife Financial, Sun Life Canada, and financial institutions, immigrants from Hong Kong that have tried to move their funds from MPF, as well as any other witnesses the committee deem relevant, and that the committee report its observations and recommendations to the House. Monsieur Brunet-Duceppe, est-ce que vous voudriez que je la lise en français aussi?
Mr. Brunet-Duceppe, no?
Can Mr. Ali has his hand up, so we'll go to Mr. Ali. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering if it's possible to circulate this motion with the amendment and sub-amendment the clerk just read. That would be helpful for me to take my position.
So we will do that, and I'm going to suspend the meeting for a few minutes. So members got the amendment as sub-amended. So any discussion on that one? Mr. Al-Khoury, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no problem in supporting the amendment. However, I would like to sub-amend the amendment by adding the following. And that pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests a comprehensive government response. That's it.
I'll go back to Madam Kwan. Madam Kwan, is it okay with you?
Of course, I love
Okay.
to get a government response.
Sure. Okay, Mr. Kimmich? Okay?
I haven't raised my hand.
Right? No? Okay. Good. Okay, here we go. We got to go ahead. So, okay, now we are back to the sub-amendment as sub-amended. So, here we go. Any more discussions before we go to the vote? Madam Jahid.
So now, are we voting on the sub-amendment proposed by Mr. Al-Khoury, or yeah, are we voting on that sub-amendment?
That's right. First of all, we will have a debate. And if the debate, no more hands up, then I will call the vote. Or if
Okay.
there's a unanimous consensus, we'll call it by unanimous. Okay? It is unanimously passed. So now we are back to motion amendment as subamended. All in favor of that? Yes. Okay, seems good. So now we are back to the motion as amended. So, and now all in favor? Here we go, easy going. So it's carried. Okay, Madam Kwan.
All right, we're on a roll, so let's try this one on for size. Mr. Chair, I would like to move that pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee invite the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada and department officials to appear before the committee for 2 hours to update the committee on the temporary immigration measures initiated in response to the ongoing conflicts in Sudan and Gaza. As we all know what's going on in Gaza, I think that this meeting is absolutely urgent for us to hear from the minister on the special immigration measures. We know that there are a lot of issues and problems with the measure. I won't go into all the details here, but suffice to say, people who have applied have not heard back. They can't get their code in. They're rejected, and they don't really know why. It's not made clear to them. And even those who've gotten the code, we know that no one has actually made it out of Gaza. And so this is of utmost importance as the situation continues to escalate and lives are literally being lost minute by minute as we speak. And the other one, of course, is the Sudan special immigration measure that was announced actually just before Christmas, quietly, I would say, to the government that the government had done. There wasn't a whole lot of attention on this, but the issue there is not any less urgent. And to my understanding, that quota is also up and filled as well. So I think that this is really important that we get the ministers and officials come and speak to our committee about these matters. And then after that, Mr. Chair, I will have another motion, but I'll wait for this to be completed first.
Okay, so I have a speaking list. Madam Zaid, then Mr. Ali.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Kwan for this important motion. It's a very important that we hear from the Minister on those temporary immigration measures. So many people are caught in the war conflict, and I've been hearing the stories of many of my constituents in my office. They are fearful of their loved ones who are trapped in the war. There is a humanitarian crisis there with no humanitarian aid getting into that region. So I want to thank the Minister for bringing forward these special measures, but there is a lot of confusion, and I think definitely the committee needs to hear from the minister how this process is going. And as Ms. Kwan said, like, some people have received the code, some people have not received the code. They have no clear indication that when and how they would be able to get their loved ones out of the war zone. And with added firing in the Rafah region, it's like we really need to look into this ASAP. So I would like to propose an amendment to this motion. After the words "to appear before the committee," add "as soon as possible," because it is really very time sensitive. So we need to hear from the minister. So I would like to make an amendment to add before the committee "as soon as possible," and then also add after hours, and have officials appear for an additional hour following the minister's appearance.
Thank you, Madam Jayed. We have an amendment on the floor, and we have now we will be talking about the amendment if we have the consensus in the committee. Do we have the consensus? Okay, good. So now, sorry. So, Madam Kwan, if you want to speak about the sub-amendment, then you and then Mr. Radikoff.
Is the amendment, and yes, I will speak to the amendment by adding the words "as soon as possible" and then adding for officials to appear for an additional hour following the minister's appear to update the committee. So on that component. So yes, I support the amendment proposed by MP Syed. The issue that I want to be clear about then is that with this amendment, the minister will appear for 2 hours with officials, and then in addition to that, the officials will stay for 1 extra hour. So that's what that means.
Madam Jahid.
Yes, so that's what I'm proposing, that we have a total 3-hour meeting, because it's an important issue. We need to hear on different issues, because we are hearing a lot of stories from our constituents, so we need to go deeper into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Radikoff.
Well, my brilliant question was asked by Madam Kwan and answered, so I'm good.
Good. So now we have the consensus to Madam Kai. Oh, sorry. No, but first of all, I have to go. I'll go to Ali, because first I have to take a consent that we are debating now on amended, right? So then I noticed that. So are we all in favor of the amendment? Good. Carried. Now we will go to Mr. Ali and then Madam Kaibaga.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank Madam Kwan, Ms. Kwan, and Salma Zahid for this very important motion. I might have an amendment on the motion. I like to see that if we can circulate it in writing, because the situation in Gaza it's devastating. And I have met with one of my constituents a couple of weeks ago who had about 8 family members who have numbers, but they're still waiting. They don't know what's going to happen. And I was with Miss Salma Zahid in a town hall, and one Canadian came. His son was stuck there. So there's so many stories, and we need to ask these questions: why the cap is, and why the Canadians are not being able to get out from there. So, in my opinion, 3 hours even are not enough. But if we can circulate this motion as amended, so I might be able to bring forward an amendment to that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ali, do you have the sub-amendment to the motion as amended right now? Can you,
no,
you want to say that?
No, I like to see that.
Motion first?
What's in it, yes, please, and then I will be able to come back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will ask Mr. Clerk, Mr. Burgo, to distribute the motion as sub-amendment.
I won't be able to translate it.
Just 1 second, Mr. Bruno Duceppe, go ahead, please.
Oui, évidemment, dans,
Of course, in both official languages.
Would it satisfy if Mr. Clerk reads this slowly and you grasp this? Because the committee business has to be in both official languages, and Mr. Clerk would not be able to do that right way. So if you are okay with that, I would ask Mr. Clerk, Mr. Burgo, to read this slowly so that he can grasp it.
Yeah, just don't suspend, just close the mic.
Few seconds to talk to Madam Jahid. Mr. Clerk, Mr. Burgo, go ahead, please.
Okay, so the motion would read as follow with the amendment of Ms. Zaid. That pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee invite the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada and department officials to appear before the committee as soon as possible for 2 hours, and have officials appear for an additional hour following the minister appearance to update the committee on the temporary immigration measures initiated in response to the ongoing conflicts in Sudan and Gaza.
Okay, Mr. Brunel de Sepp.
oui, cette fois-ci, Monsieur le Président, j'aimerais ça que
Well, at this point, I don't want to put too much pressure on the interpreters, so I'd like to see something in writing nonetheless, if possible. It's a little more nuancé than the preceding amendment.
If that is the case, because I can't carry on, I can see Mr. Ali has the same concern, Mr. Bruno de Sepp has the same concern. So meeting is suspended till we get the French version. The honorable members, did you get the motion from the clerk? Good. And now we have Mr. Ali. You received that, right?
Yes, Chair. I
Okay,
did.
so go ahead. You have the floor now.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add when we that pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee invite as soon as possible the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, and Department officials and Global Affairs Canada officials to appear before the committee for 2 hours and have officials for an additional hour following the minister's appearance to update the committee on the temporary immigration measures initiated in response to the ongoing conflicts in Sudan and Gaza. I just added the Global Affairs Canada officials, just because IRCC and the Global Affairs, they work hand in hand on the ground. They are doing amazing work, but face many challenges. So committee would benefit to learn from them what sort of challenges they face. So I think it would be good to learn and bring forward a report on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. The members, all good with it? Good. Mr. Ali, everyone is good. And now we will move to the debate. And I have the speaking list. Madam Kaibaga and Mr. Chang. Unless you want to...
Speaking on the motion that our colleague...
As sub-amended by Mr. Ali now. The amendment as sub-amended by...
The motion as
amended.
because the first...
To the motion.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm speaking to the motion, not the amendment.
To the motion as amended by Mr. Ali.
Okay. And Mrs. Zahid as well.
That is already agreed.
Okay.
Madam
Awesome.
Giles thing is already agreed.
Amazing.
Now we are debating on Mr. Ali's amendment.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That's been a little bit of confusion this morning, but I am very glad to see this motion come forward, and I'm happy to support it because I do believe that, as we know, the state of these two countries, Sudan and Gaza right now, are two places where we have direct members of our communities that have been reaching out and have been asking for support to support not just their family members that are still in these places, but also to bring back some family members that are Canadian. And I'm going to reference a couple of people from my riding personally. The Kuta family, which is directly from my riding. This is a family of about 16 people, and 8 people have already been able to leave Gaza and come back to the city. And there's still 4 family members that are Canadian with Canadian citizenship that have not been able to come home. And that is very problematic, Mr. Chair, and we really look forward to seeing what is the rationale behind it and how we can get them home safely and as soon as possible. And as well as doing the reunification of family members, of people who have been displaced. I want to give a little bit of numbers for Sudan, because a lot of people don't actually know what's happening in Sudan. As my colleague rightfully said, there's been very little information on the Sudanese crisis. There is more than 7 million people that have been displaced through this crisis. And I personally have my community members who have family members in Sudan. Not only can they not have access to leave, they can't even get a visa. So we're putting in measures, and I want to talk to officials to understand how these measures are going to help when offices on the ground have been closed. Women in Sudan are being raped in broad daylight. It is recorded. There are war crimes that are happening, and there is no infrastructure in place to help people leave this place. Canada's known for supporting a lot of people when they go through these crises. That's why we have a really good reputation. And, there are a few crises that I can think of where we stepped up and did exactly who we are and did what we do, which is compassionate response. When it comes to Sudan, many community members have asked why we haven't seen an equal response to their crisis and why a lot of our community members can't bring their families here. I have a member in my community who is a hardworking taxi driver who can't reunite with his family members because there's no infrastructure for them to even get visas. Or even get ID. And the process in which this takes for them to process their papers and to be reunited with their families, even prior to the crisis, something that we really need to discuss. I also think that to what my colleague Zahid here said, Gaza is a very unlivable place right now for anyone, for any child. And if we have Canadians who are still stuck in Gaza, it is our responsibility to bring them home. And it's we've put in measures that allow family to be able to be reunited, but they're limited. The numbers are limited. And what is the rationale behind that? Our response to other crises like Ukraine have been very different, and I think that we should step up and we need to do more. So this is why I'm supporting my colleague's motion, and I hope that everybody else will as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Kaibaga. I'm going to the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Mr. Chang. Go ahead, please. And thank you for your patience. Ms. Chang, I know you had your hand up, and I didn't mean to ignore you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak here. I support this motion, and I'm happy that we are able to do something about this here. Since this crisis in the Gaza started on October the 7th, I had numerous meetings with families and people that have families stuck in this crisis that are pleading with us to get them out of Gaza. And the atrocity that's happening there is unimaginable for us as Canadians. And as Canadians, as Canada has been a beacon for many nations through conflicts and war. And I think we should step up and help the people that are stuck in Gaza and in Sudan. And these atrocities are terrible, terrible things that are happening. And the images that we see on social media and the news, it really breaks my heart when I see these things. And since October the 7th, I had numerous meetings with leaders from the communities in my riding. I have two large mosques that are in my riding, and the leaders from both the mosques has been to my office, and we had numerous meetings in regards to this and how we as a government and we as a country can help bring the refugees and the people that are in crisis out from Gaza and Sudan itself. And I'm fully in support of this motion, and I hope that we can move ahead and help people that are in dire need out in the Middle East and in Gaza, in Sudan. And I'm hoping to work with my colleagues across the aisle to ensure that we can expedite this and from all parties to work together. And thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to speak. Oh, Mr. Chair, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. I will go to Madam Zayed. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and it's really like I'm thankful to my colleagues supporting this motion. Like the last 125 days have been very heavy on all of us. Like it has not been easy as a mother for me to see all those horrific pictures coming from there. In the last 125 days, we have lost close to 30,000 innocent lives, many of them being children and women. I've been having meetings with my constituents, hearing from a lot of people. On Friday, I hosted a town hall in my riding, and many people came all the way from different parts of Ontario to talk about their loved ones who are trapped in Gaza, who do not have anything to eat. They don't have drinking water. It's a humanitarian crisis, and I think Canada has always stood for making sure that we build peace. It's really very important that we schedule this meeting as soon as possible, because it is really like so many Canadians are looking towards us to get their loved ones out of that humanitarian crisis. I have heard from grandparents who have lost their children, and their grandchildren are without parents, and they have the custody, and they really want to bring them because there is no one to look after them. They are like thousands of people are housed in UNRWA schools, like 15,000 on the average are using one washroom. That's what the life is of the people living in Gaza. Like, there are many people who have their children over the age of 24 trapped there. They have their siblings trapped there. Some people, I have heard, have lost their siblings and their kids. They are with their mother and no one to look after them. So it's really very important that we get those people who are trapped there here so that they are united with their loved ones, and we can bring peace to those people. So it's really very important that, if as chair, I would request that this meeting be scheduled, because it's a time-sensitive issue. Like, every day, every second, the people are being killed in that area. So it's really very important that we schedule this meeting as soon as possible, so that we can hear from the minister what efforts are being done to make sure that we can get the people trapped there and reunite them with their loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Jayed. And I don't see any more speakers. So are there consensus to carry the motion as amended? Yeah, there are consensus. Motion is carried. Before we move forward, I want to thank Mr. Clerk and particularly the interpreters today, because it is not the duty of Mr. Clerk and the interpreters to translate when we bring in amendments. If the members in general, I'm not pinpointing anyone, but in case the members know prior to coming to the meeting that there is going to be the motions sub-amended or amended, if they can ask their party officials to translate and bring it in both official languages, it will help us here. So thank you to all the honorable members, and particularly to the interpreters and Mr. Clerk. So with this, the floor is open, and Madam Kwan, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I thank the committee members for supporting that last motion. I have another motion that I'd like to move at this point, and the notice has been given for this motion, and it reads as follows: that pursuant to Standing Order 108-2, the committee invite the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship and the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities and relevant officials together for 2 hours, or invite the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship with relevant officials for 2 hours, and the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities to appear separately with relevant officials for 1 hour to update the committee on A, the work of the task force addressing the exploitation scheme targeting international students, as many students are still reporting that they're in limbo and have not heard back from officials about their status. B, measures taken by IRCC and institutions to help prevent and protect international students from fraud schemes. C, the justification to increase the financial requirements for international students by more than 100% to $20,635. D, the justification for putting a cap on international study permits. And E, plans to address the housing crisis for international students and efforts made to collaborate with provinces, territories, and post-secondary institutions. Mr. Speaker, I think the motion is self-explanatory on all the elements that I think we would benefit from having the two ministers appear before a committee. We've also deliberated this issue at length at another meeting, so in the interest of time, I won't go and revisit all of those points, and I hope that committee members will support this motion.
Thank you, Madam Kwan. The motion was put on the order on February the 1st. It's in order, so I will go to the discussion, and Mr. Radikov, then Mr. Chang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I appreciate this motion. Of course, it's very similar to the motion that we put forward that was defeated, unfortunately. But a couple things in here that are important for us. Obviously, we've been working with international students as well, so it would be great to hear back what the status of that is. The government seems to have responded in certain ways and not in others, and I know there's still people very much, students who are very much in limbo there and trying to find answers, and so I think it would be great to have the minister and people here to talk about that. So that's good too. And this whole cap on international study permits, there are many questions about how this is going to work, what the numbers are going to be, and I think it seemed like it was a very last-minute, haphazard thing put in by the government, and so I think it's great for us to have the opportunity to dig a little deeper and find out exactly, how this is supposed to work, what the rules are, what the regulations are for the provinces, what the caps are, and those kinds of things. So I think this is a great a study that is important and we need to do. So I'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Radikov. We'll go to Parliamentary Secretary Mr. Chang, then Mr. Brunel Desai. Mr. Chang, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to amend the motion for 2 hours to 90 minutes, and if they appear separately, it should be 2 hours. It should be 90 minutes instead of 2 hours.
Okay, Madam Kwan, do you accept that friendly amendment to your motion? Madam Kwan.
Thank you very much. So if I'm understanding it correctly, the amendment is, instead of having the two ministers come for 2 hours, is to have the two ministers come for 90 minutes instead?
Mr. Chang.
No, it's a total of 90. Total of 90 minutes. The two ministers coming in total of 90 minutes.
So 45 minutes each.
Yes.
Madam Kwan.
For each of the ministers to come for 45 minutes each?
Mr. Chang.
That's right.
Madam Kwan, is that okay?
Can we take a pause for a
Sure.
minute here?
Okay, I'll suspend the meeting and for a few minutes. Chang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies, colleagues. Let me clarify my amendment to it. Just to clarify, if they're appearing separately, Minister Miller would be appearing for 90 minutes alone, with Minister Fraser appearing for 1 hour separately. And if they appear together, if both ministers appear together, then it'll be for 2 hours. So in the motion itself, for Mr. Clerk, for the motion itself, for the 2 hour part, where the second 2 hour, official for 2 hours would be 90 minutes. Where it says 2 hours, then 2 hours, then the second part will be 90 minutes.
Every member, honorable member, is very clear about this. If they're clear about it, and any more discussions before we take a vote, there are consensus to carry this forward? Yes. Yes, it is carried as amended, and Mr. Brunel Duceppe.
Wait. I'm sorry. It's my turn to have an amendment that has not been translated, but I spoke with the clerk. It's not really complicated. I should have thought of it before. My bad. I would add as well point F, so after point E, point F, the justification for the new measure concerning open work permits for spouses of foreign students. So the justification of the new measure concerning open work permits for spouses of foreign students.
On the floor, and Madam Kwan, anyone else speaker list, please raise your hand so I can put you on the list. Madam Kwan, go ahead, please.
I'll just speak quickly to this as well. Mr. Bruno Duceppe is correct. That actually should have been part of the motion, and I've forgotten about that. And so it's an important piece, so I appreciate it, and I hope committee members will support it.
Thank you. If no more discussion, all in favor? Carried. Here we go. We're doing really well. Motion as amended is carried, right? Good. Thank you. Mr. Radikoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to...
Sorry. Yeah, hold on, Mr. Radikoff. Madam Kaibaga, you were on the list of speakers. I thought you were on the list of speakers on this motion. I'm sorry. Floor is with you.
On the motion, not on the amendment.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
But the motion is
Amended, yeah, I get that.
And
But-
carried, right?
Okay, cool.
Right? You okay with that?
Yeah. They're
Okay,
good with that.
great,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to echo my support for this motion. I think that it's important that we hear on the measures that are going to ensure international students aren't blamed. And the goal really here is to ensure the integrity of the system. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I want to get back to some of the comments that, have been made in this committee around the blame that is being put on the students and the false phrasing that was made last week on the intention and the words that the minister used when actually fixing a system that we know the conservative minister expanded and let it run rampant, which we've done. We've cleaned it up. But it's important that we do not use international students as the scapegoats. And it's important that we get factual information. The Conservative introduced the Balanced Refugee Reform Act in 2010, which was aiming to deter refugee claims and undermine Canada's humanitarian tradition and its commitment to protecting vulnerable fleeing persecution. They did that. They also opened, the minister actually expanded the international student program, and he let it run. And it's on their record. We've come and we fixed that, so it's not true that we are the one who are running the system rampant. We're fixing the problem that they've created. And every single time there's a cut to any program or there's any change made in reduction, it has ripple effect. And these ripple effects can go on for years. So the results of what we're seeing and what's happening with the international students is not their fault. And I think it's important that everybody knows that. And it's important that they understand that we are not saying that it's their fault. And the minister never said that. This is a system that they broke and that we're fixing. And they're yelling at us. Where were they when their minister in their Harper era broke the system? When they had an opportunity to protect vulnerable people and they didn't. And they're trying to switch it around and switch the language to blame us when we're cleaning up the mess that they've created. That's unacceptable. And I think international students need to know that. I have pages of records of things that they've done on housing that we're stepping up, Mr. Chair, trying to fix, to make sure that, there are infrastructures in place that when international students come, they have the proper supports to be able to succeed. So talking about housing, as I said last week, housing is a provincial issue, and yet we're stepping up, and we're supporting municipalities. We're working with municipalities. But you know what they did? They cut housing agreements with Quebec, with Nunavut, with cities across Canada. And they have the audacity to come in this committee and blame us for that. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable, Mr. Chair. And they voted against programs for over 86,000 new apartments in December. So how are they helping international students? And misquoting what the minister actually said and the intent of the work that he's trying to do. I don't think we have any lessons to take from them. Absolutely none. And I really do think that this is a good motion that we should all support to make sure that we allow the ministers to come and explain.
No, but I mean, you're speaking.
C'est ça, point d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
Point of order, Chair. Is it normal that we discuss a motion which has already been carried? I think we're still discussing that motion. It's been carried. We're done.
Look, and she wanted to support the motion and say even the motion is passed, and members are welcome to speak. And now we will go to Mr. Redikoff. Please go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Redikoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess maybe I would just make a quick comment on what we just heard. it's pretty clear, and it was right from the minister's mouth, that the immigration system is broken and is not functioning well. And so you can't change public opinion by just wanting it to change or saying it's not like that. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. I have a motion I want to move, and it is as follows: that pursuant to Standing Order 108-2, the committee invite the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship to appear for 1 hour with officials, and invite departmental officials along with officials from Immigration and Refugee Board to appear for 1 hour on the Supplementary Estimate C for the fiscal year 23-24 after they are tabled in the House of Commons, and that they appear before the end of the current supply period. This is standard procedure for us, and I know that we will do this, and so I just want to get it on the record that we do this. I'm sure we have, all of us will agree that this is something important to get the Minister to talk about sub-Cs. So I'd like to make that motion.
The motion is on the floor. Any more discussions before we take the vote? I don't see any. Madam Zahid?
Are we just debating on this motion, or we are looking into some time frames? When, like, what exactly, where would it fall approximately?
The motion is on the floor, and the debate is on the motion as presented by Mr. Redkop. Okay, if no more, Mr. Al-Khoury.
I think we have no issue. I believe we could support this motion and go for a vote, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And no more discussion and no more speakers. I will call everyone in consensus. Mr. Chang.
I'm just making sure that we all here to vote on this matter. And I mean, it is a motion that's in front of the committee here, and we would like to review it just to make sure that we're okay with everything. But I think we should be okay with voting for it. But just give me a moment, please. Mr. Chair, give me a moment.
We'll give you a moment. No worries. You want me to suspend for a moment, or you? Huh?
Yeah, just please for 30 seconds.
30 seconds? Okay,
Thank
we'll
you,
suspend for. Is it okay? You have the floor. You good?
Yes, we are good to go. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
There is consensus in the committee to carry the motion? Good. Motion is carried. And Madam Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Wow, there's so much consensus, so maybe we'll have consensus here as well. I just want to seek the committee support to ensure that after the minister comes to the committee, as soon as possible on the Gaza-Sudan motion, that we also, after that, prioritize the motion on the international students, because that too is very current and very urgent. But so in that sequential order of having the ministers come on Sudan and Gaza, and then after that, the next priority would be on the international students.
Thank you, Madam Kwan. And before I speak, if you want me to interject for a minute, Mr. Reddycop, then I'll bring to you. We have many ongoing things with us. We have a letter to be drafted and a rapporteur to come in. And March, we are only sitting for 1 week. So we are already moving into April and May. And I will pass it on to the clerk, because he will prepare according to the will of the committee members the schedule and distribute, and then we can comment and go to Mr. Reddycop. Mr. Reddycop, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's some of what I was going to say. I think we already have a standing motion that ministers are priority only second to legislation, which we don't have before us at the moment. So I would agree with my colleague Ms. Kwan that we need to prioritize ministers' appearances. And since we have so few meetings in the next month, I would urge the chair and the clerk to work very, very hard to get ministers here for those few meetings that we do have. So just really encourage you that way.
Okay, my question to the committee. So we have, as we said earlier, that February the 26th, we bring in the rapporteur, right? Everyone in favor of that? We are okay with that meeting? And clerk will distribute the drafted letter on Afghanistan on that day. And on 28th of February, are we all in agreement to work on that letter?
Most of the ministers.
Okay, this is why I'm asking. So as clerk knows when he's going to put a schedule together. So I'll give the floor to Madam Kwan and then to Mr. Reddycop. Madam Kwan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would rather that if the minister is available to come, that we prioritize the minister's appearance before we get into debating the draft letter. I would prioritize that because I think that is of the essence. And then with the other piece, we can then do it according to our schedule. So that would be my preference. I would say that the minister's appearance would be a priority ahead of the other work.
Thank you. And I will go to Mr. Reddycop, then Madam Zaid, and then Mr. Bruno Decep. Mr. Reddycop, go ahead, because these are the only speakers I will be able to entertain unless we have resources.
Okay, I agree 100%. I think we have to prioritize the minister over everything else.
Okay. Madam Zahid.
Yeah, I just also wanted to emphasize that point that I think that's like the motion has been passed, and it's really very important that we hear from the minister as soon as possible. So at the earliest availability of the minister, we should schedule that meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Bruno Decep.
Oui, je veux juste m'assurer que...
Yes, I only want to ensure that for the special rapporteur, the United Nations, we stick to that schedule, whether the minister is available or not at the same date, but we have to get it over with. It's the last witness that we hope to hear from on this particular study.
So we are already past 1 o'clock. Is there a will to adjourn the committee meeting? Yes. Here we meeting adjourned.